Well, welcome to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and we're reading the book of Acts, and we're up to chapter 25 and verse 23. And so we've seen that Paul is now in the hands of Festus, and the King Agrippa and Bernice have arrived, and Paul is going to be brought before them. So in the previous bit we saw here that Agrippa says to Festus, I also myself wish to hear this man, and tomorrow, he says, you will hear him. Teun ebarion, we've got to supply hemera again, and on the following day, genitive absolute. Agrippa here does not. This is a kind of genitive of Agrippa. It's Agrippas, and this is a sort of Doric genitive of these nouns ending in as. So this doesn't look genitive, but it is in fact a Doric genitive, as it's called. So on the following day, when Agrippa, having come, and Bernice with polis fantasia. We get our word fantasy here. This is a very strange and rare word, only here in the New Testament. Probably we could translate it as pomp and ceremony, and it generally doesn't have that word. It normally has other meanings, but here it must have something like pomp and ceremony. So with all pomp and ceremony, and we get another part of the genitive absolute with our tone have to be supplied, and they having entered into the acroterion. This is you can see how this noun is formed. It's into the auditorium. There's a verb acroaomai, to hear, and this is just the neuter noun formed from this, so into the place of hearing, and hence the auditorium. Son te kiliarchos, along with the kiliarchs, kai andrasin tois kat exoken tes polios. Very odd expression. Literally, it's after the son, and with men, those who are kat exoken, are in prominence, so those men of the city who were in prominence, i.e. with the most prominent men of the city, we would translate it. It is a very uncommon expression, and this is the only time it occurs in the New Testament. So they went into the auditorium with the kiliarchs and with the most prominent men of the city. Another genitive absolute, kai keliusantos to Festu, and Festus having given orders. So when Festus had given the order, and after all these genitive absolutes and participles and things, we finally get the main verb and the subject right at the very end of the entire sentence. Eikthe hopaulos, Paul was led in. This is very good Greek. It's not generally that common in the New Testament to get so many piled up genitive absolutes, but that's what we get here. Luke is writing in much more higher level Greek than you get elsewhere in the New Testament. Kai Fesin ho Festos, historic present again, and Festus says, evocative, Agrippa Basiliu, King Agrippa, kai pantes hoi sum parontes hemin andres, and all the men being present, that's the parontes, sum being present with us, theorete, behold, look at this man, peri who, regarding whom, hapan toplethos, all the multitude of the Jews, enetukon. Now this is from entunkano. It can mean to turn to appeal to make intercession with. it's a plural verb here, despite the fact the subject is toplethos, which is singular. But, well, a multitude is conceptually plural, and Luke has used a plural verb. So, on whose account the whole multitude of the Jews have perhaps appealed to me, we get a te and kai, so both in Jerusalem, kai enthade, and here, boontes, crying out or yelling out that. Now, dein is the infinitive from day, it is necessary. So, yelling out that it is not necessary for him, saying to live, infinitive, make eti no longer. So I would say any longer. Greek has double negatives, they don't cancel as in English. So crying out that this man ought not to live any longer. Ego de katalaboman. Now this is from katalambano. It's a lovely word. It can mean to apprehend or to comprehend. And here I think it's the latter, and possibly best translated as I ascertained. So, but I ascertained him, peprakhenai, this is the perfect infinitive from prasso, we've seen this, a similar form of this earlier. So I ascertained him to have done a maiden nothing axion worthy thanatu of death. But now genitive absolute, since he himself, so this man himself, has called upon the emperor, so we'd say since this man has decided to call upon the emperor, ekrina, well literally I judged, so I decided, pempain, to send him. Perihu aspheles tigrapsai to curio uk echo. So I do not have anything aspheles, literally safe, but here in the sense of definite, for certain, or beyond doubt. So I do not have anything for certain to write to the Lord, i.e. the master, i.e. to Caesar, peri who, regarding whom. So regarding whom I do not have anything definite to write to the emperor. Diot, on account of which I have brought him I brought him beforehand, before I send him off, F humon, in your, or before you, and especially before you, so this is you plural here, and this is you singular of course, and especially before you, King Agrippa, so that genitive absolute, anakrisios genomenes, an examination or a hearing having taken place, sco is the subjunctive from echo, I might have something, understand, which I will write. So I might have something that I will write about. Arlogon gar moi doke, for it seems to me to be illogical or unreasonable. Pemponta, having sent a desmion, having sent a prisoner, not samanai, from samino, this is the infinitive here, so it seems to me illogical or unreasonable, to send a prisoner, not to indicate also tas aetius, the accusations cat autu against him. Now that's the end of chapter 25, but we're going to move on to start of 26. Agrippas de prospaulon ephe, so Agrippa says to Paul, epitrepatai soi perisiautu legain, It is handed over, epitrepatai, soi to you, to speak perisiatu concerning yourself. Toti hopaulos, and at that time, ektenas ten keran, so having stretched out his hand, kera, so he puts up his hand to motion for silence. And so, what was that there? So at that time, Paul, having stretched out his hand, apelogeto, he began to make his defence. It's imperfect here. Peripanton hon, and now we get this long speech of Paul regarding all those things which I am accused of by the Jews, O King Agrippa. Hegemai, I think myself, understand perhaps to be, makarion, to be blessed, apologesthai, to make my defence, it's the melon, so I regard myself as blessed, being about Sameron today, to make my defence episu in your presence. Malis to gnoston ontase, knowing you, especially for the malista, so especially knowing that you, especially you being gnostain, that is knowledgeable. So especially since you are knowledgeable, gnostain, of all the customs, the ethon of the Jews, or regarding the Jews, tekai, and also regarding their customs and their temata, their disputations. So slightly intricate there. So he says, I regard myself as blessed, being about today to give my defence in your presence, especially since you are cognizant of all of the customs and disputations among the Jews. Wherefore, on account of which, for this reason, diamai, I ask, I request, understand you, I request you, I ask you, akusai mu, to hear me, makrothumas, and this with some word meaning patiently. It's connected with our word long sufferings, or there's macrothumia, great-heartedness. So hear patiently, I think, to hear me patiently. Tain men un biosin mu tain ek neotetus tain ep arches genomenain ento ethno mu en te hierosolemois isasi pantes hoi iudaioi. Now, as usual in these speeches, the subject and the main verb get held back for a while, and the subject here is pantes hoi iudaioi, so all the Jews, and the main verb here is isasi, which is the third person plural from oida. This don't come across this terribly often in the New Testament, but isasi is the third person plural from oida. So all the Jews know, and the object of what they know is back here. They know, therefore, my biosin, my way of life, in square brackets tain, the one from my youth, the one being from the beginning. Now we get, watch out for this te, it's a very useful little connecting particle. So it's among my race, among my own race, and in Jerusalem. Because of course Paul was brought up in Tarsus and then went to Jerusalem. So he's saying that all of the Jews, they know my way of life from my youth, right from the very beginning, among my own race and also in Jerusalem. Pro gynoskontes, having known me anothen from the beginning, from the top, literally, or perhaps for a long time, having known me from the beginning, if they are willing martyrein to testify. So they knew beforehand, right from the beginning, if they wish to testify, that Etsesa, I lived from Sao as a Pharisee, according to literally the most accurate sect. So in other words, the strictest sect, perhaps, for this one, the ones that pay closest attention to detail. So according to the strictest sect, heresin, we get our word heresy and so on from that, but just means sect at this point of time. Sect tes hemeteras threskeia, of our threskeia is its religion, but it's religious observances, really. It's often translated as religion, but it's a relatively rare word. It turns up in Epistle of James as well in the New Testament. Kai nun, and now we need a verb, and again it's delayed a little bit to the end of the line, end of the verse. Hesteka krinominos, I stand being judged now in regard to the hope, and now we get tes, and it must be going with a participle and a noun, and here it is down here. So in the hope which in the hope of the promise that came to be among our fathers by God. So I stand being judged in regard to the hope which came from God to our fathers. Hope of the promise, the epangelia. So I stand being judged in the hope of the promise which came by God to our fathers. Eis hein, the hein relative pronoun, again it's referring back to the promise, in which to dodekaphulon, now this is a very odd expression here, so to which literally the 12 tribes of us. Now it's singular here, which of course affects the verbs. So in which our 12 tribes, en ekteneia, it's an odd expression, it means earnestly, en ekteneia, earnestly. It turns up in Judith, in the Septuagint, Judith 4:9. So with regard to which our 12 tribes earnestly, by day and by night, latruon is a neuter participle agreeing with this to dodekaphulon. So it's serving, so our 12 tribes were serving earnestly day and night, elpidze, and that they hoped, and the katantesai, to attain. So it's the hope to which our 12 tribes, serving earnestly by day and by night, they hoped to attain. Regarding which hope, so regarding this hope we would say, I am being accused by the Jews, Basiliu, O king. Ti apiston quinotai paramen e hoquios necrus egere. What unbelievable thing is it judged by us if God raises the dead? So if God raises the dead, why is it regarded by you, not by us? So why is it regarded by you as unbelievable if God raises the dead? Ego menun edoxa emauto pros to onome Jesu tu Nazareu den pola enantia praxi. I, therefore, decided edoxa from it's that docio thing that seemed good. I there decided in myself that dein, infinitive from de, it is necessary, so that it was necessary praxi to do all things against, all things opposite, in regard to the name of Jesus the Nazarene. So I decided in myself, in regard to the name of Jesus the Nazarene, that I ought to do everything contrary to it. Hoc kai epoiesa, and that which I did in Jerusalem, and I kateklesa, I shut up, so that is I locked up, in phulakais, in prisons, many of the saints. So I did that, Labain, having taken authority from the chief priest. So having taken the authority from the chief priest. So the tain goes with the exousian here. Having taken authority from the chief priests. Now genitive absolute, and I rumenon de auton, and as they were being condemned, perhaps condemned to death, so anhyrio we've seen before is to kill, so it's literally as they were being killed, so as they were being condemned to death, kataenenka, from kataphero, I gave my vote kata against them. So I carried the vote against them. And timoron, punishing them oftentimes about all the synagogues, or in all the synagogues, oftentimes getting vengeance on them or punishing them. Anenkasdon, from anenkasdo, I compelled autus them, blasphemein, to blaspheme, te, and perisos goes with the nominos, perisos excessively, so having gone excessively crazy against them, so having gone excessively crazy against them, ediokon, I was pursuing them, heos kai, even into literally the outer cities, so even into the foreign cities, the cities outside of Jerusalem. And we'll finish there, and we'll continue with chapter 26 in the next recording.